Let's head to Tuscaloosa, where Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores are coming in. Alabama coming off a win at Georgia. Alabama's a 10.5-point favorite, Ari. And this is one of those games that we've been talking about since the offseason. If you watch that SEC Netflix show, they had the whole episode on Vanderbilt beating Alabama. So everybody's been able to relive it in a good way and a bad way. I don't know that what happened last year necessarily has bearing on this year, but I would imagine it certainly keeps Alabama from being surprised by anything that happens with Vanderbilt.
Yeah, no question. And, like last year when Vanderbilt beat Alabama, it shocked the world. And it was like we're going live right now. Everybody write a column. Like that was a big, big deal last year. And if it were to happen again this year, it would be a big deal. Don't get me wrong. Like Vanderbilt improving to what would be 5-0 or 6-0 and beating Alabama on the road. And, that would have been like a statement for where they stand in the SEC race, but it wouldn't be such a heavy moment the way it was last year. And that wasn't supposed to happen. Like this is a 10.5-point spread. It's Alabama's still the favorite. They're playing at home, but Vanderbilt's a really good team this year. And I think that, everybody's pretty much caught up to that. It feels more like a big SEC game than it does a payback little brother scenario. And, right. Vanderbilt's got a long way to go before they're not Alabama's little brother or everyone's little brother. But man, they've made a lot of progress in the last few years. And, I could conceivably seeing them win this game. And I don't think that it's crazy to think that.
Well, and it's interesting because Diego Pavia got interviewed over the summer and he said, yeah, I came back to win the national title. I'm like, that's cute. It's funny that you said that, but you play for Vanderbilt. I don't know that we're laughing so much now about that. I think Vanderbilt has looked pretty awesome. And, if we look at last year, Vandy still lost to Georgia State before they beat Alabama. Like they played Georgia State this year and just absolutely annihilated, beat them 70-21. They beat South Carolina 31-7 in a game where Lenore Sellers got knocked out, but I don't know that it would have mattered if he hadn't, because Vandy was just absolutely dominant. And that was on the road in the SEC. So this is definitely a different Vanderbilt team. This is certainly the most talented Vanderbilt team in a long, long time. I go back to the 2 9-win teams that James Franklin had there. He had some talent on those teams. I think this one's better. I think this one's more capable of playing with the teams at the top of the SEC. Because if you go back to those years, they still had to, when they played Georgia, when they played Florida, when they were good, they couldn't quite match up. I think this Vanderbilt team is going to be able to match up with the better teams in the SEC. Even if it can't beat them all, it's not going to get blown out.
Right. And I've got a fun statistic that I looked up in the offseason about this game, and I'm not sure, or not the offseason, the last few weeks. Alabama is 0-1 under Kalen DeBoer's leadership in games in which the opposing team's quarterback talked trash to them in the offseason. I know people like gambling data. When picking games like that.
The sample size is admittedly small, but Tommy Castellanos did talk a lot of trash and backed it up. That's true.
Yeah. And I don't know if we know this yet. We're still gathering context and information, but life depending on it right now, I would probably say that Vanderbilt is a better team than Florida State from top to bottom. No,
I don't know that I'd say that, but
maybe not.
I would. Let me put it this way. If they played each other, my line would be less than a field goal.
Yeah, I think Florida State might have better players from top to bottom, but I think that Vanderbilt has proven it's a more functional team from top to bottom. Like they play together and they believe in a way that I think Florida State's going to have to build. And we'll get to that game later on in the show. But you know how hard it is. And Mike Norvell is finding out that, going undefeated or changing your process to go from 2-10 to 10-2 is a very difficult transition. And like Vanderbilt's not making that transition this year. Vanderbilt's
trying to go from 6-6 to maybe 8-4 or 9-3.
Yeah.
Although Diego Pavia believes they're going 12-0. And look, I think if you're Diego Pavia, you have to believe that. Part of what makes Diego Pavia is he truly in his soul believes that they are going to compete for the national title this season. And that's the only way they can go to Tuscaloosa and win this game. Like, they all have to believe that.
There's also so much put into the fact, and like, I buy into this, Andy. I think you and I agree on this, but like, I picked Alabama last week because I knew Alabama was going to show up for a playoff-like environment and play like high-level football. And I think that part of the notion of the reason why Alabama lost to Vanderbilt last year was because they didn't play passionate, good team, complimentary, like fiery playoff level.
Well, they didn't
football.
show up. They thought they would just walk out and win. And they got their asses beat. And it was not a fluky game.
Part of the analysis of this year's game, though, is that Alabama will not be caught sleepwalking. And I agree with that. But the other half of the analysis of that isn't said very often, which is Vanderbilt has already done it. They believe it. They're undefeated, and they're fired up too. Like, it's not just because it's like, oh, Vanderbilt, snuck in the middle of the night and stole Alabama's watch, and now they have an alarm system. It's like, no, they took that from them, and they can take it from them again, dude. Like, and
Vandy's not going into this game going, oh, I hope we can compete. I hope we catch a couple breaks. They're not feeling that way. Now, here's the thing. If Ty Simpson is as good on third down as he was against Georgia, Alabama's going to win this game because they were awesome. That is what Alabama was doing to Georgia on third and fourth down is just breaking their back over and over, because you get the defense's hopes up. You get the whole team's hopes up. Okay, we're going to get a stop this time. And then you just stab them in the heart every single time. It was unbelievable to watch, because I've not seen a quarterback do that to a Georgia defense in a long, long time. And he's so calm out there. It's really been impressive to watch his growth as a quarterback. And we said all along, the day of the Florida State game, Ty Simpson wasn't the issue against Florida State. Ty Simpson, played fine, but they got physically manhandled. Alabama's not getting physically manhandled now. They haven't in their last 4 games. So I think they're probably going to be in a situation where they will come out of this, they'll come out of the tunnel. They will be pumped to play Vanderbilt. They will not think they're going to win just because they're Alabama. And that's the best thing that can happen to Alabama in this game.
Yeah. And I do think that losing a game that you're embarrassed to lose, or, not showing up in a game and everybody giving up on you, can play into a psychological advantage. I think we saw that happen last year with Ohio State to a certain extent. So, that said, give me the points, dude. I'll take 10.5.
It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. And we don't plan this, like I said. I'm taking Diego Pavia to cover. I don't know if he's going to win, but I think he's going to get him close.
Yeah. I mean, Diego Pavia is number 1 in your college football dog rankings. So
he is the number 1 dog, though. Ty Simpson is climbing quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. People thought maybe I was specifically overreacting to Alabama's win over Georgia. I think that they are a very good football team that could conceivably win the national title still. But playing at the level of Georgia the week after they did it is still not something that I'm 100% confident that Kalen could.
Right. There is a bit of a body blow situation too. That second half against Georgia was so physical, and the defenses were pounding on the offenses and on both sides of the ball. That matters. Now, it may not catch up to Alabama now, but it's like they got to play Missouri too. They got to play Tennessee too. So that's the tough part, and it's not limited to Alabama. I mean, Vanderbilt's going to have the same problem as they move forward in the SEC. They just happened to have played Utah State last week. So this is going to be so much fun, because whatever happens, we're going to come up with some sort of wild, like, it's either going to be, oh my God, Vanderbilt did it again. Oh my God, Alabama's burning down. Or it's going to be Bama's back. Florida State loss is now totally erased, and Bama's going to be fine. They're going to win the SEC. They're going to compete for the national title. Like, we are going to massively overreact to this game, and I cannot wait to do it. Can't wait.
Yeah.
But yes, give me Vanderbilt to cover.